Hey everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. I got an interesting and kind of a different take for you today. I'm sitting in the airport with ASP CEO Stephanie. We just got done with Force Science's Advanced Body-Worn Cameras class. And so I thought I'd give you a little quick review of it. You can see I have messy hair, don't care. Florida. And I want to talk to you about this class. Wilderness Tactical has been around for longer than the gun you're carrying has been. And they have been making high quality products for concealed carriers for literally decades. I wear their low pro belt every year. The webbing is the best in the industry and I won't wear anything else. If you're looking for a good CCW belt, check them out. So Steph, it's not too often that you and I get to go to class together.
I know, we used to travel quite a bit for teaching and classes, and as we've changed our focus to the more legal, moral, ethical side, we don't get to travel together very often. So this is fun.
It is kind of fun. It's a treat for us, right? So we traveled down to Sarasota, Florida because Force Science put on their advanced body-worn cameras class, and we are literally sitting in the airport. Stephanie's getting on her flight home to her wonderful family here in Florida. As soon as we get done, pretty quick, 20 minutes.
Hopefully, fingers
My
crossed.
flight's not for a couple hours, but thought we'd talk to you about it. I enjoyed the class. So what is this class about? This class was taught by Mike, an incredible instructor, and Mike is a retired 28-year police chief and an expert in forensic cameras.
Right. And he has his own video production company,
Yeah.
high-end video production company as well. So he really had a special skill set to speak to this.
Really good stuff there. And so 2 days. Now, 16 hours, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Exactly.
Not a big fan of 8 a.m.
Or 5 p.m.
Or 5 p.m. for that matter. But, and okay, full disclosure, right? So we are ambassadors for Force Science. We've become ambassadors for them. I'm proud to be an ambassador for Force Science. Really, the class, I would say most of the first day was a review of human performance.
And yes, and I think we both kind of expected that to a certain extent, because you have to talk about the way the mind perceives and understands and remembers and sees things versus the way machine's going to. And so I actually appreciated that so much, even having gone through several courses that have already covered it with Force Science. It was still a fantastic review. And if you haven't been to the other courses, I still think it gives you a really solid basic understanding of vision, attention, memory, all of those things.
Certainly not as in-depth as Force Science Analyst.
No.
So it's not a replacement for Force Science Analyst.
No.
It's not a replacement for their other coursework. But I would say if you've had Force Science Analyst, it definitely provided a great refresher.
Right.
If it's been a couple years since you've had that. So that was really valuable. Then we did get into the technical aspects of cameras and, what kind of sensors do they use? What frame rates? How do you verify that a video is authentic and unmodified?
Right.
And it wasn't overly technical. Okay. So it wasn't like digging all into that stuff, but from a forensic side, I thought that was really important. Now, the funny part is for your and my work in the expert witness world, I'm like, I don't really do a whole lot of that authentication stuff because what video did you want me to see, defense? Well, this is what was disclosed to us by the prosecution. Okay, cool. I mean, I suppose I could potentially see a prosecutor modifying a video, but that would be, humongous prosecutorial misconduct, and I wouldn't see that as a likely thing.
I wouldn't either, and that's not really what our rule generally is the video itself authentication as much as the stuff that's
Analysis.
happening. But it really did give some kind of best practices of things to look for to give you clues that it might be tampered with or something else before even the defense or prosecution may have gotten the video,
Right.
Not necessarily that it would even be a misconduct thing. But what I really liked is I didn't feel like it hit so hard on the technical side, but only as the technical side is important to the
analysis side.
opportunities and challenges with body-worn cameras. And so I appreciated that because I don't really care that much about the processor, except when the processor adds different artifacts or whatever. So
well, and I felt like really that's where the strength was. Well, then, okay, so what are some of the distortions that cameras add? For instance, the barrel effect. In all body-worn cameras, because of their fisheye lens, because they want a wide field of view, are going to have a barrel effect. Whereas cell phone cameras, I'm recording this on my iPhone, which is why it's a little shaky. They have the opposite effect, the pincushion effect. And so knowing that and saying, okay, maybe we can correct for that. And again, in our analysis work, I don't think there's a ton of that stuff, but things like looming, which makes it look like on a body-worn camera that you're farther away than you are. That motion towards the camera looking different than it does in real life. I think those were really important pieces.
Right, and they showed some great examples of the differences of what when we're watching an incident in a body-worn camera on this wide-angle lens versus what you might see with your normal eye or a different style of lens. You perceive it as a hugely different,
very different
distance, what might look like 5 feet versus 15 feet.
Yeah.
And that can make a real difference in the public perception. If you're like, boy, that guy looks like he's 15 feet away, 20 feet
over
away.
There.
He can't possibly be a threat, when in reality, he's more like, 5 or 8 feet. And it really is that significantly different in your perception. So
it's a real thing. And so I think that was really helpful for us, and to have some empirical backing for that and some more significant discussion of that, I think was really good.
Hey, you guys can sit here.
I also think, this is a live airport, by the way, so there's lots of folks traveling with their
we
families.
got mics, we'll be good.
Yeah, we got mics. And so I think a big takeaway, what was kind of a big takeaway for you?
Well, I think there's things that we know that the camera misses, things like gunfire, gunshot, muzzle flashes, gunfire. They happen just too fast. And I knew that, but to have the technical understanding of mechanically why that might happen, software-wise that might happen, and it's not even necessarily just something like muzzle flash. It could be like a very fast strike of some kind, or at least part of it. And so being able to explain that at a better level than I was able to before was really beneficial to me.
I think he had a great example of somebody striking somebody on camera. And when you're doing that at 30 frames per second, you can see it very clearly, but you get down to about 8 frames per second and you don't even get to see the strike.
Right.
And so it wasn't caught on camera. You get to see some movement, and then you get down to 4 frames per second, you barely even saw movement.
Right.
So it's a very interesting thing. I think I loved the piece at the end that he talked about. Here's best practices for putting out badge cams, which I think was directly applicable to us.
Right.
And his big things were to be honest, and to be exact, to put out the correct information and the most accurate information you can, and to do so honestly, with earnest intent and sincerity. So we had a discussion about the difference between sincerity and hypocrisy. And some of that was, look, when there's a mistake there, you just got to own it.
Right.
Yeah, when it's bad, you can't sugarcoat it.
Right.
So I thought it was a good class.
I thought it was a fantastic class, and I think it was just really good because I think most of us don't understand why when we see a video of something, we feel like we know exactly what happened.
Yeah.
We saw it, and therefore we know what happened. But in reality, like we were discussing earlier, the camera is really just another witness.
Yes.
And they are, oddly enough, as fallible as the human witnesses.
Yeah, something like 50% of muzzle flashes, the camera just won't catch.
Right.
50% of the time. And so you're like, well, wait a minute, the camera catches everything. Not really. And the camera is really as accurate as it's a third-party witness, right? And especially, if it's down here and the officer's eye's up here, you've got a couple degrees off, and 1 or 2 degrees can create a vast difference in perception.
Right. Not even to mention the idea that our eyes are so much more limited than the lenses and the processors. We can only focus on one thing on the screen, whereas the camera can clearly focus on the entire field of view. That's hugely different. So when someone says, I didn't see that, and so you see the video thinking,
Of course you did.
Clear as day. How could you have missed it? Well, knowing about vision, it's very easy. We have a very limited detailed view of vision. And I think that's surprising to most people because our brain fills in the rest. And it looks like we have this beautiful, clear view, just like the camera.
Right.
When in reality, that's kind of manufactured by the brain to a certain extent.
And I think there's a real value there in saying, listen, on a body-worn camera, the recollection of an officer is just as valuable as the collection of a body-worn camera, because the difference in perspective, the difference in distance, and it's just as apt to miss something. And something like 50% of the time, the reason that an officer makes a decision to do something wasn't caught on the body-worn camera, for maybe it wasn't pointed in the right direction. Maybe the perspective was off, and so the camera couldn't see what the officer saw. And I think that holds too. And I'd say one of the things that ASP is kind of doing with the cadre at Force Science when we sit in their classes is making them really considerate for private citizens too.
Yeah.
And us, we did this several times, is that we're looking, it was a room full of cops in us, okay? And good cops, like everything from chiefs of police, like chiefs of not small city PDs, down to, IA cops, down to, those are obviously, experienced police officers, SWAT cops, those kind of folks. I think that we were like, hey, remember when you're doing investigations that aren't body worn cameras, but you're looking at surveillance video, you're looking at, what a private citizen did. Use these same principles in private citizen self-defense investigations like you would and like you would want to in an officer-involved incident.
Because that authenticity, that truth, that, real forthright investigate. People are going to make mistakes, but your intent has to be to find the truth. And just because someone says they did or didn't see something, or their recollection is vastly to slightly different than what is on a video camera, doesn't mean that they are lying.
Right.
And so look into that. It doesn't mean they're telling the truth either. Obviously, you got to look into these things. But the camera is a great opportunity, a great tool, just like the gun and everything else that an officer can use. But it is just a tool with opportunities and challenges.
Right. So I think this plays into several cases that we have, that we've worked as expert witnesses and are working right now. One I have coming up, I'm not going to give you the details on that one yet, but it's already paying dividends in that. So I think our gratitude to Force Science for allowing us to come train, and it's always a privilege when we are invited into their space, because they've been a law enforcement training organization, and so letting us come and play has been very helpful, and it will pay dividends. You're going to hear me talking about this stuff on badge cams with Mike. You're going to hear Stephanie and I talking about this stuff on Extra. So more to come. So hey, question for you at the end: when's the last class you took in training in self-defense, and what'd you learn there? Let me know in the comments. Steph, safe flight home.
Thank you. You too.